Hey guys, so I wanted to talk some editing today. Um, this is not my favorite part of writing. Honestly, I hate it. And I know everyone says, well, writing is rewriting and whatever. And I get it. Like, it is part of the job and we have to do it, right? That doesn't mean I have to like it. I like creating, I don't like destroying. Uh, but as I get further and further into my career, the more I'm noticing different editing styles. Some of my friends literally go through like content editing, line editing, development editing, and all of that. I'm a little bit different. So most of you know, writing is my full time job. True crime, true crime history. I've been getting really into business lately. Trying to do personal essays. Um, Usually my personal essays are somewhat tied to one of those three that I talked about. Um, and really for nonfiction, it's a little bit easier, I think, because you are just kind of like, okay, this is the story, this is what happened, this is the dynamics. Um, for personal essays, which of course are nonfiction, but I find those a little bit harder because, um, you know, the taste and the requirements are changing. They want some dialogue, they want this and they want that. And it's all good, right? Like, you really should be listening to the audience. You should be listening to the people who are paid to edit because that's literally their job. so, so I get it, right? And I do look back on some of my old pieces and I cringe and I'm like, oh my God, like, what was I thinking? I should have edited more. I should have done more. And that goes for my books too. Like sometimes I'll go back and look at something because I'm trying to reference something or I'm trying to, remember how I did a certain plot point or whatever. And I'm like, oh my God, this is atrocious. What the actual fuck? um, but that's how it goes. When I'm more developed into YouTube, and doing video editing and, I have a setup and I have an actual camera, I'm not using my phone, I'm going to feel the same way. I'm going to be like, oh my God, those first videos are just, but they're learning points. And getting myself back on track. Um, I'm a big believer in you don't want your first draft out there. I've been very lucky in my life that a lot of my first drafts aren't horrible. Um, but I still don't want people to see them because I've developed the piece more. Um, one of the proudest one of the pieces I'm proudest of is my case study on Disney and how they lost touch with their audience. This was a piece that I knew was going to get a lot of blowback because Disney is really controversial at this point, for lack of a better way of saying that. There's a lot of, oh well, you know they're woke, or what even is woke, right? Or they're this or they're that, or they didn't go far enough with the don't say gay. They went too far. And just stop. Because the real truth of the matter is Disney doesn't care about liberal or conservatives. All they care about is making money. And that's it. But the reason why I'm proudest of this piece is I did two drafts before I sent it into Better Marketing, the publication that it ended up being, that ended up publishing it for me. And the editor was very, very kind. She's just a wonderful, wonderful human being. I'm so happy that I got to work with her. And the two things she asked me to do were things that I thought I had done, but I didn't, and I was glad to have that second pair of eyes. And all she asked me to do was establish my expertise in the matter, and give a clear takeaway. really drive home that point. And so that's what I did. Um, and like I said, she was very generous. Um, but 3 drafts, and that's my limit. I don't do anything more than 3 drafts. If it's not coming together, if it's not working by 3 drafts, it's not going to work. And I know that sounds really harsh. And for people who have day jobs, um, or I should say traditional jobs, I think that's going to be different for them because they're not reliant on having a product out. They put it in their time at their traditional job. They get a paycheck. For me, though, it's different. I have to have things out. Readers expect some sort of consistency from writers and content creators. If they're not getting it, they're going to move on, and you're not going to capture them again. So I do have a 3 draft rule. And I didn't realize this was controversial until I brought it up to a writer friend of mine, and she was like, "No, Ed, like you got to do more." And I'm like, "No, no, no, that's not how this works." You know, I think perhaps back before the internet, even in the beginning of the internet days, um, when writers were getting paid per word, um, I think there was a little bit more leeway there, right? Because um, publications like Vanity Fair or Entertainment Weekly would ask for between 800 and 1,000 words, but you were getting $2 per word, so you weren't so stressed about, oh, I got to make money. Um, in a later video, I want to talk about which system is better, because I do have a lot of thoughts. I know you're shocked. um, but when it comes to editing, one of the things that I'm really starting to grind in on is making sure that my point is coming across in a very clear, concise way. And if it's not, then I need to figure out why. So in the Disney piece, my point came across very clear. In a personal essay that I'm writing, I don't think that my point was coming across the way I wanted it to. So I'm doing another draft of it right now. And the second draft of it is really clicking better for me. And and I have ideas for other pieces, but I always wait. And to me, this is part of the editing process. So I always wait until I have a very clear angle or a very clear point to make about, whatever I'm trying to write about. My piece, The Underground Job, about a heist that was undone by a salami sandwich, I had sat on that for probably 3 or 4 weeks before I actually wrote it, because I was churning it over in my head trying to figure out what I wanted to say. And really, at the end of the day, what I wanted to say is criminals are stupid. You go, in this particular case, they practiced this heist for 2 years. And, it was down to a science how they were going to do things, and then they were undone because someone got paranoid and wanted to scatter the evidence through the forest rather than burning it, which was their original plan. And that really resonated with my audience. Again, with Disney, I didn't want to get into the politics of it. Not that I'm not political, I definitely am. But in this case, I wanted to center my thoughts around the marketing, the business aspect of this, and why it was, why Disney's failing now. And a secondary point here that no one's really picked up on, but I'm okay with that because they picked up on the bigger point, is that history repeats itself, right? So this is not the first time that Disney has been in trouble. In the 1980s, it was in trouble, and there was a turnaround that happened. And I fully expect that there to be another turnaround here. So when you're developing a piece, make sure you are getting your point, because that'll make the editing process easier. Um, and if you are a content creator full time like I am, at least consider limiting yourself to let me rephrase that. At least consider limiting the amount of drafts you do. Um, that way you're still making money, and but you're still doing what you need to do, and putting out the best piece that you possibly can.